Hey guys, and welcome to yet another video. And today we are back together. We got the band back together.
Oh,
DNA.
Hey,
that's a great thing.
Because I am over here with fellow Paw Patrol YouTubers Nebula and Da3picMeat. And
Hello,
I
everybody.
think
mhm.
I've also introduced you guys in the first video, so I don't think there's a need for introduction.
No need.
No need.
Yeah. All right. I've got now here all the stuff we'll be talking about today because for you guys listening, we have all three of us now have seen the Mighty movie. And it did take a little while, but we finally did it because Nebula had to watch it by another method and it finally worked, and here we are.
Yeah, long lasts. Too long.
Yeah. So, the first thing we'll be talking about regarding the Mighty movie, which by the way, we will be talking with spoilers. First is the story. And since Meat, you were very strong on this particular part of the movie, so I'm gonna let you start this off.
Alrighty then. So I got a lot to say here. Um, Overall, I came into this movie just wanting a good movie, not making any thoughts about it being better than the first, and I'd say it delivered on that. In terms of story for Sky, I did enjoy most of it, though I think throwing in too much at the beginning about Sky being small was a little irritating. Like, yeah, we get it. But on the other hand, I like how they portray the different issues people have with size, like kids bragging they're getting as tall as you, and how kids get taller more than others. Like this was something that Sky hasn't had an issue with, and is most likely going to be the main reason why people dislike this story because it doesn't connect to who Sky is the character again. She's never had an issue with this before, and going back to the original Mighty Pups, Chase sort of had the same issue with his leadership and how he was able to lead without Ryder's help in Pup Save Ryder from season one and in his ultimate rescue episode from season five. But I still think that if it wasn't her Sky's size insecurities, the only other thing that could work with her was her fear of eagles. And I think it would have been a little bit better if they were involved in the plot or at least Sky's backstory in some way. Um, I wasn't expecting much from the unique connection, as if it was a big thing in the movie, they would have hinted at it more with I guess, the promotional material. The official poster was really the only thing we got close with it. Plus, I kind of hate the fact that from the way Jennifer Dodge worded it in that magazine article, it looked like it was going to be more than what we got. But I think that what we got was good enough for me to look past it. Sky's scarf being symbolism of her past, letting it go at the end, signifies putting the past behind her, which I think it would have been much better if she let it go before going after the giant meteor during the final confrontation. She takes a look at it one more time before going after it. Um, Sky narrating her past is a big plus. Telling it to Chase and having learning to fly play during the sequence gives it another big boost. But while I did like it, I don't think it tops what Chase's story did and how where it was expressed and how it was executed overall. The junior patrollers are cute and a needed refresher in terms of character. I really wish we would have gotten more background on them and individual interaction with each other. And most of the time they were just there, and I still feel like they were introduced just to give Liberty something to do and have her own subplot. But on the other hand, I think it was nice seeing Liberty in action a bit more with the team than the first movie did, and playing a role with the team. But I actually liked her better in the first movie more, despite this. And Victoria Vance is an all-right villain in my book. She gives the pups a challenge, pushes them to the lowest point more than Humdinger did in the first. she was clever by creating a trap for Sky to steal her crystal, and I believe she faked herself sleeping so she could get the jump on Sky. And her descendancy into a mad scientist over the course of the film is good enough to see, though she is a bit generic by her being obsessed with power and a little irritating at times. But still, she is one of the best human villains, in my opinion, that we've gotten in the series, but not as good as Sweetie or Copycat in terms of villains. I do hate that Vance got her powers so late in the film that we don't get to see her use it as much. Like, by the time she starts using it in Flash, she no longer has powers. And, while, voice crack. While her lightning powers are original, she was a bit weak when she had them. And her and Humdinger's team up, while it was interesting for the most part, didn't really materialize any further than I thought it would. Like, it's fine for what it's worth, but I was kind of surprised that Vance kept her end of the bargain with Humdinger and gave him a crystal like they agreed on, and that was her biggest mistake as it led to the chain of events. It led to her defeat. I could say more on this. I have more points on flaws of the story, but I want to give you guys a chance to speak first.
No, yeah, that's okay. Because I do have a few topics here we'll get to later on, which we can discuss more about those flaws. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I was quite surprised when Vance gave the crystal to Mayor Humdinger and kept her end of the bargain. And I was like saying to myself, when are the other villains going to realize that giving Humdinger any kind of authority or power over something is a terrible idea? Because it always comes back crushing down on him, and he either. The thing is, I don't think he was at fault for why he got defeated this time, because the junior patrollers were the ones who actually helped the Paw Patrol defeat him. So I will say
Yes.
that from that regard, they made Humdinger somehow seem like a slightly bigger threat than Vance.
I mean,
Pun not
yeah,
intended.
he almost won. If it wasn't for the junior patrollers, the cops would have basically been screwed. They didn't have any crystals, but they were lucky they came in there and saved them in the end.
Yeah, agreed. And before I talk about more stuff from the story, Nebula, I'm gonna ask for what you think.
Okay, I have a lot that I could say in regards to both sides of good and bad, but that would take too long, so I'll just keep it as short as I can. I think when I look at the good, um I look at things like Sky's backstory, I look at their powers, and then I look at the villain. Starting with the villains, obviously, I look at Sky's backstory first, and I think I like how we're aware that she's starting to feel nervous about her size kind of early on, but I feel like the start of it, the fact that it's like literally just a joke over how Sky doesn't want to get picked up, because they're in the junkyard, obviously, and the whole setup to the thing, and we know this is what's going to be the setup is they want a group picture with a Paw Patrol, and is it Janice? I honestly can't remember her name. She says she's like, I'll pick her up, and then like her husband's going like, "Oh, make sure you pick up the little one," so she's in camera, and then Sky goes, "No, I'm fine down here," and she literally just scoops her up out of nowhere without her giving consent. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that yes, I know they're animated and they're not like real ones, but they still have the aspect of maybe don't pick me up if I'm saying no. And she didn't necessarily say no, but it was a little bit awkward. And I remember the image that got leaked months, like I think it was maybe a month before the movie actually released. We actually got to see that camera shot, and we seen Sky being a little bit worried. And I remember having the theory maybe she'd had something before then, like annoying her, and it was literally all it was just the fact that she'd got picked up without her consent, really, which I can understand. And obviously, that's obviously the setup to her being a little bit awkward about her size. And then I give credit to the backstory this time around that we don't actually see guy's backstory, we don't see it until we're almost, I think, halfway through. And I think that made it a bit more interesting because it's not like a setup right at the beginning. We don't know what it is. Well, I say we don't know what it is. We for silly reasons, most of us probably did figure out what it is because of music videos or book pages. But I like the idea that
Like
they
the
waited before
master
they.
leak department.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like I like how they didn't just actually show us what Sky's backstory was like right near the beginning, like they did with Chasey's. And the more interesting thing was I noticed, and I liked the idea that when they did this, they chose to make the backstory all one segment. Like they didn't split it apart, and they didn't cliffhanger it like what they did with Chasey's, which is how he met with Red. Obviously, they didn't split the things into two different bits. They just kept it all in one scene instead of doing it one right at the beginning of the movie. Then before the end of the movie, we get to see the end of it. I do like that. And do you know when I was watching that scene with Sky's backstory and learning if I started playing, my first thought was, hold on, Meat. I thought of Meat, and I actually remember you said that you would hope this time around it would be actually Sky telling whoever it was, she'd be the one telling her backstory instead of Ryder. And I actually thought that was a lot better, and I like the idea that, you know, one of us was able to call something that was correct, and I did prefer it that way. And I think that's what made it a bit more interesting. And uh, I have to be honest with you, though, learning to fly was just like soul destroying. Like that's so much. Not ashamed to admit I teared up during it. Not ashamed at all because that was a lot. But then when I'm thinking of obviously other things in the story as well, villains, I do think Humdinger had to be there for good reason. He is the Paw Patrol's. Like, I'm not saying he's the best. I just want to clarify this. He's definitely their most iconic, but more infamous. Like, he's always just got to be there, and it's weird because how he meets up with Vance is the simple fact that she gets put in prison and she's in the same jail cell as him, and they end up talking. And what I love is the fact that Vance is probably one of the very few calling him out for how stupid he is. Like, because what is it? They're in the jail cell and Vance is talking with him and he says, "I need a moment to confer with my kiddies," and she basically just like rolls her eyes and like this. She's like going, "This fucking guy," and it's like that's what we've been seeing for the past like 10 years whenever we see him as well. Um, I do like the idea of their team up, and again, it's a bit of a twist of fate on the fact that for whatever reason they actually, how do I put it? They actually the villain does actually keep their words, and that would end up spelling the starting the chain of events that would lead to their downfall, like he's said. It's a bit awkward, but Vance as a villain is definitely probably one of the best. I think she's probably the most dangerous, simply because she's actually done stuff that actually causes like destruction on a whole larger scale. Whether she meant to or not, like the fact that she called down a meteor that was, I think, at least as big to like much bigger than the first one she called down, like at the end of the movie. The fact that that probably would have been capable of like much more destruction just symbolized the fact to me that she was capable of a whole lot more. And the fact that she actually almost sent Chase plummeting off a cliff, if not for Liberty, was really good. And I think I give the story one last thing I just want to say. I give the story a bit of credit in it was paced well, but not always so well. Like some moments I felt like they paced it a little bit too quickly. And it maybe should have been stretched out just a little bit more. And fair enough for time limitations, but when I think about the story now, I think that it was paced all over the place. Like it wasn't paced consistently, which is what I was hoping for. But that's kind of really all I can say for that, without going into too much else of other points in that.
Yeah, I agree with all of those points that you said. And the thing is, when it comes to consistent pacing, it's kind of been a problem that a lot of movies that are made for kids these days have. and that is that they can't really find the sweet spot when it comes to telling a specific story. I will say this though, that I thought the pacing of this particular movie was slightly better than what the first movie had. And because when I was actually watching the movie, this movie is actually shorter than what the first movie was, but to me it didn't feel like it, which I think that shows that it did get some points of the story was consistent, but yeah, there is still room for improvement there.
I see. That I do agree with.
Yeah. And with regarding about Victoria Vance as a villain, I do agree with you. And she does have one thing that most of the other villains that we have in the Paw Patrol series don't have. And that is she actually plans ahead and thinks ahead of time. Unlike most of the villains who just plan there on the spot and surprise, surprise, things immediately come crumbling down.
Yeah, she's a lot more forward thinking and definitely a lot. She's the smart. I argue she's the smartest one because, well, uh, yeah, actually no, yeah, I agree. I'm gonna say that I agree. I think she is probably the smartest because, like you said, with the whole concept of her being able to really like plan for almost everything, and the fact that she was almost certain that Sky was actually going to come after her to get the crystal back, like she planned for that, is what makes her a lot more dangerous. Not just what she can actually do, but what she actually plans for.
Yeah, I agree. And also, regarding the story part, I do agree about Sky's story that there were some things where I was a bit confused by and didn't really make a lot of sense to me, especially when it comes regarding, like, there is a part in Sky's backstory where, like, Ryder comes back and sees her, and I'm like, hold on, what was the reason why you decided to backtrack and head back to that place? Did you maybe forget to deliver something there? And that's maybe the reason why? It wasn't really explained that well there, but it maybe that was just done due to try to save time. But I think it's just something that I'm just nitpicking a little bit, and I don't think should be considered too important.
Yeah.
Trying to think, maybe maybe I'll think of what I was trying to think of earlier when we get to the other topics, because we will probably discuss even more there.
Yeah.
Next on the topic list, we have comedy. What did you guys think of the comedy in this movie? I'll start with you, Nebula.
Okay. I want to just say one thing for starters, obviously. Actual comedic moments in a kids' movie, any movie, whether it is animated or is a live action or whatever, can be quite rare because obviously the humor is for children. Like sometimes the humor can literally just be walking into a wall, and obviously kids the age range it's recommended for are obviously going to find that funny. Like I'll maybe do a little like snicker over it, like just like a slight chuckle, like a very very small one, mind you, but nothing like nothing actually quite serious about it. And a lot of the problems, obviously, as well, is when I was watching the Mighty movie, there were a lot of moments where I kind of knew what the joke was going to be. Like the bit where Sky has to land the plane in the Main Street area, and when she's going through and flying between the buildings, it cuts to it cuts to the yoga instructor in the studio, or and it's just like saying, and remember, I can't remember the exact line what she says, but it's something like, and remember, be calm. And then the plane, as loud as it ever, just comes flying by. Like moments, and obviously she starts screaming, like, moments like that where you know what the joke is going to be, it kind of undercuts how funny it's probably going to be. And then, like, I feel like if there's a subversion, right? And if it actually wasn't like going right past that building, it was like she just and it maybe didn't actually like show the plane going by. It maybe showed like a different perspective. It probably would have been a lot funnier to me. But there were actual moments where I did laugh, and like I'd said earlier, in fact, one of the moments I think I laughed at quite a decent bit was the the toilet joke in the jail cell. When like obviously Humdinger's like gesturing to the toilet in terms of having a way out of there, and he's like pointing to it. And I don't remember what Vance said, but she had a very disgusted look when she said something. And he says, "Oh, come on!" And he moves the toilet away, and it's an escape tunnel. I was not I knew he was probably going to have an escape tunnel under there, but I was not expecting them to do anything. I hate to say it, unironically, like a toilet humor joke. It was unexpected, and I'll admit as well, there was a couple moments I can think of that I did actually laugh quite a decent bit at. And whenever it was stupid or not, I actually think the comedy in this movie was done better. And I have to be honest with you, another thing I will say as well, like stupid things when it comes to the jokes. It's jokes that however old you are, it actually does make sense, and it is actually quite funny. So I give the comedy in this movie at least a leg up over the previous one, because I think I did laugh a lot more during the Mighty movie than the first. And I think most people, if they are planning to see it, probably will as well. And even some jokes that are just like like fourth wall breaking meta jokes, like the reporter talking about Sky and like the Sky merch, and he goes, "To all the parents out there, I'm sorry," because every parent's gonna know exactly what he means, and I like that. It's done well for any age, and I think that was what made it a little bit better, which was good.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely enjoyed the humor in this movie, like you said, quite a bit more than I did with the first one. And like you said, the Twilight humor joke was also one I did not expect they would include in this movie, but it was. I know some people didn't like it, but hey, it was something different, and it did get a laugh out of me.
Yeah.
I
And
agree
yeah,
with
I
that.
think
Did you want to go or do it?
yeah,
I
you
guess
can go now.
all right. I agree with both of you. I laughed a lot more than I expected to. Like, my favorite one out of all of these were when Liberty says to the junior patrollers, "Do you guys want a break?" And they say, "We don't need no stinking break." That was
Oh
that.
yeah.
I don't know why I laughed as hard as that on that one, but that was good. I don't know why, but then the like you guys said, the toilet joke. I mean, I was watching, I'm thinking, wait a minute, am I watching Paw Patrol or something else? Like, it's good out of context. Like, for those who don't have context on what happens afterwards, it's funny. Even when Humdinger says, "I worked extra hard on it," it was good.
I'm even laughing at it now, thinking about it. It's actually that good.
I did cringe at it a bit, like, oh my god, is this actually happening? But at the same time, it was still funny.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, the one joke that that got more a laugh out of me than other jokes was, believe it or not, the one where Humdinger and Vance were going under the tunnel, and Vance said, something like, "I'd be feeling more comfortable if I had something else to look at."
Oh god, yeah. Oh man.
I think I'm gonna mention
That one had me dying in laughter.
Mm.
that one was good. This one I want to mention another one. This wasn't funny, but I like how Humdinger, like whenever he comes out of the tunnel and everything, and Carmen and Tony point out that they've gotten out of prison. He's still like something like his loyal supporters still caring for him. Something like Advance is like quit campaigning, and he doesn't like free and fair elections or something like that.
Hmm.
That was a good one.
Do you know the first thing that came to my mind the second he did that was I don't know if I don't think it is because it's probably really obscure, especially for a kids' movie. But the first thing that came to my mind when that scene happened was Donald Trump getting out of prison. Like that's the first thing he tries to do. Like he's campaigning the second he's out of prison, and then he's basically in denial about his supporters and saying we aren't voting for you. And then that's the thing that came to my mind when watching that scene. And I think I chuckled when I thought of that, not the scene itself. But that's the thing that I probably thought of the most, to be honest with you. And it was just so stupid, but that's what came to my mind when I'd seen it.
Yeah, that was really good. And yeah, I think we all can agree that maybe it was not the perfect comedy, but it was definitely a step up from the first movie. Now we go on to the next one, which is the animation. And I'm gonna start off with this one. So, regarding the animation, I know that before the movie, like months before it was getting released, there was quite a bit of concern that the animation would not be as good as the first one, because it seemed like throughout the trailer that there were maybe some areas that didn't feel as smooth regarding the animation. But I think once I started to see the promos, those were when my fears of that started to disappear. And sure enough, when I saw the movie, the animation was really, really good throughout. And I'd even argue that some of the visual effects that they used for this was quite a big improvement from the first movie. So I think, once again, regarding animation, they did a fantastic job. What are your thoughts, Meat?
I found it to be more or less the same as the first, but I can acknowledge the improvements. It does take up where the first movie left off with a couple of. It's mostly the smaller details I noticed. Like there were like when the pups used their powers, there were like particles around the paws when they were glowing. Um, updated fur textures. We got to see Snow and Sky's backstory, which, by the way, I didn't mention that earlier. That was animated really well.
Oh yeah.
The pup's powers in general, better visual improvements all around, and I guess the entire ending sequence from Sky attacking the meteor till the very end, especially with the aircraft carrier and the sunset in the background, that was really well done.
Yeah, it really was. And what about you, Nebula?
Right. Well, I'm going to start off with the fact that I do think one of the bold claims, obviously, that was made before the movie was even released, was Cal Brunker, the director, saying the Mighty movie will look better than the first. Him saying that was such a bold statement, and I had fears for it as well. Seeing the trailers, I can see why he said that. It was definitely scaled up in terms of how much more fluid they were trying to make everything, and I think I don't really have much else to say other than the fact that I did really enjoy the large majority of it, but there were certain moments that felt a little bit awkward. These two moments in particular. The first one is shortly after Sky loses her crystal and Ryder's talking with her about it. I don't know if this was intentional or if it was just something that, like, when they animated is like it's a very small thing, but during the scene when Ryder's talking to her and he has like a long, like, he has at least like two lines when he says something to her, his mouth movement was a little bit off. Like, it almost looked like it almost looks like at first he's not actually saying what like, his mouth is not moving to what he's actually saying. Obviously, without a visual reference, like, without something like an image or a picture, I can't really say exactly what I mean. But my whole point is that his mouth movements weren't really matching up with his voice, and it was a little bit awkward. And the second one, and I class this under the animation because it is a bit weird. It's the bit where Sky's punching the meteors, and when she's getting her paw back to, like, get ready for a punch. And look, this might just be like something related to like the anatomy, and I don't like anatomy for dogs. I don't mind that, but I always found it a bit awkward of the fact that it's like the way she pulls back her leg, the way she pulls back her leg and paw is a bit awkward, and it looks like she's tensing up. I always just found that a little bit weird. But those are the only two things that I can really say that were even small problems, because and I'll go on to the meteors again, right? When Sky punches them, the way it like actually breaks apart, like it is, you actually still see the rocks and the heat coming off of them. I do like the details like that, and like me had said earlier with the snow and her backstory, that's a lot of detail I was not expecting, and I think it shows that Micros are really trying to go all out as much as they can when it comes to the animation for these movies, and it shows their dedication, in my opinion. Like, it really shows their dedication for something as simple as a kids show turned into a movie, which I really like.
Yeah.
That's all I really have to say on that.
Yeah, there's not really too much you can talk about when it's regarding animation. So, yeah, but once again, it was very well done, and apart from maybe a couple of hiccups, it was very well done. Next up, we are gonna talk about the action that was featured in this movie. And Nebula, I'm gonna start with you with this one, since I think you're someone who really loves the action.
That is true. Okay. For being a Paw Patrol movie, I was not expecting them to go as hard as they did with some of the scenes, and this kind of leads back into the animation a bit with some of the action, because there's certain moments that I actually thought to myself, "This is well done for a kids' movie. Is this still Paw Patrol?" Like, the scenes that I talk about specifically are definitely the humdinger chase scene, is what I usually like to call it. That was done so well, simply because Humdinger actually sent Liberty flying just by stomping the ground and like flipping her motorbike up. I was not expecting that, and yes, it was in the trailer, but the fact that he almost obviously, like, we know that he's not gonna actually, hit her or anything, but the fact that it's like the tenseness of that he almost did, and he almost did crush them. The scale of it was definitely good, and Sky and Vancy's like first fight, the like first official one, which I say would be the chase scene where she's flying after her. To me, is probably one of my favorite scenes, simply because I like the fact that they did it at night, but they also, I was not like, I had a feeling I knew where some of it was going to go, whether it was through trailers or plot leaks or whatever. But the fact that I was like them having an actual like race through the sky at night was really cool. And then I was not expecting all of a sudden Vance to just be force field bubble and then just take her. Like that was really good. And then I'm saving my real favorite moment from an action standpoint until we get to the best moment in the movie section because I'd rather talk about it then. But overall, I give the action so much more credit for the fact that it was definitely scaled up a lot more. And I think one of the main reasons why is because since it's superheroes, the scale of a superhero concept is so much more than just bigger city rescues. Like that's what I think I liked about it.
Yeah, that was really, the action here was fantastic, and it was definitely better than anything Paw Patrol has done in their recent times in terms of action. And Meat, your thoughts?
I do agree with the notion that it is better than not only the first, but the original Mighty Pups, of course, because I think the fact is that the theoretical film helped that. But I think some of my favorite action moments from this were Sky punching through the meteors, and again, basically the entire ending sequence, especially. Like Debbie said, with Sky and Victoria Vance, through having their little air duel through the night. That was with their flashing. I think they were flashing pink and purple insignias when they were going across the sky. That was pretty neat. But also when all the pups are fighting Vance, they they all end up passing off that singular crystal they have, and each one got a real good chance to shine in that moment. And then Humdinger being a giant, that was really well done as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, the action, as you said, Meat, was fantastic and definitely massive steps up from the Mighty Pops TV special, and of course the first movie. And to be honest, I think the action might actually be the biggest positive when it comes to this movie.
Yeah, like the animation was really the selling point in the first one, considering how it was new and everything. And this is a superhero movie, so I think of course the action was gonna be better, and that really was the big standout here among all other things, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing I will say though is I just want to put this one little point here at the end. Um, it's a little bit awkward, but the one thing I was a little bit annoyed with, and if I'm gonna put this in the action segment, is the battle at Vance's lair where all the pups and Rider Storm are based in that. The only thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the fact that a lot of them seem to be standing still a lot. And it felt a bit awkward because it's like, yes, this is a kids' movie, and they can't obviously, like, I'm not expecting Ryder to go up and try and like tackle Vance or anything like that, like nothing like that. But as much as I wanted him to be honest, but I was expecting him to maybe still be moving around a little bit more because he was literally just standing still at the entrance, and it felt a bit like, I know it's a kids' movie, but surely he could move around a little bit more than this. It just felt awkward for him and some of them to still be standing still. And I think what I will say as well about tenseness is the fact that Chase almost fell off the cliff when they were there, and the fact that he got like caught out and Liberty used her stretching powers to save him. I like that in the fact that, like I said, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about how tense it kind of was, and the fact that I actually kind of got chills when she saved him. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah, it really was well done regarding that. And I think, yeah, I'm gonna save a bit later when we get to best moment of the movie, of course, as well, when it comes to the action part as well. Next line we have here to talk about is the music and soundtrack of this movie. Meat, what did you think of this?
Definitely, without doubt, better than the first one. It kind of makes the soundtrack from the first movie look a little bit pale in comparison, slightly, but all the tracks, including the score, were bangers. There's like uh Art to the Beat, Down Like That, Learning to Fly, especially.
Oh,
They were all really good. I had my doubts at the beginning about them, but they turned out all right, and I mean, good. And the Piner Toe Crack with the score, it was really good. It had some really good tracks in it to make it feel more like a superhero film than a Paw Patrol film.
mm, that is true.
She really did. Yeah, I'm sorry, Nevi. I'm just gonna say this quickly. I agree. The music and the soundtrack is what Pinar Toprick had done for this movie is great and definitely a step up from the first movie. And I know that there is someone from the Fanatic server Coffee who still was not too impressed by it, but oh well.
It's everyone can have their opinion. If someone doesn't like it, that's honestly fine. Um, that's just what can happen. In all honesty, like it can never be perfect for everyone. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And Nebula, what are your thoughts on it?
Right. I could honestly go on about the soundtrack for a while, but I'm gonna keep it as short as I can because I want to make sure like we have time for everything else. Okay. Right. I think when I think of the soundtrack for the Mighty movie, I do find it more notable than the first because the only song I can actually say that was good made that was actually made for the first movie was just Good Mood. That was the only song made for the first movie, right? However, instead of it just being one, not even two, they made three songs for this movie, all of which are absolute bangers to listen to. And I hate, I'm not even going to be too ashamed to say this. I have been consistently singing, humming down like that any chance I get. Like anytime I'm just like maybe getting something, I'm always going, it isn't going down like that. Like I keep getting it in my head and I keep just wanting to sing the full thing because of how good it is. I think, and that to me signifies just how good a soundtrack can be. If I'm actually gonna like shortly after I finish the movie, not even with the song being any type of catchy, but just the simple fact that I'm actually remembering it because I actually like it, because that's how I think with songs. Like I actually do remember a lot of songs that I know were good, and I know they're good if I'm actually going to be remembering them after this time. And then obviously when I think of Bark to the Beat, it was unexpected because I wasn't expecting McKenna Grace to be part of any of the songs. Not for any bad reason. Like I wasn't implying that she couldn't sing or anything. I just meant like I wasn't sure if she was going to be singing anything or anything like that in the movie. Listening to Bark to the Beat though, it was definitely it's more of a bop than anything. And I will say this: I was half expecting Bark to the Beat to be the end credits song instead of Down Like That. The only reason why is because I felt like it was like a nice song to end the movie on, but I guess Down Like That ended up fitting better. And when it comes to Learning to Fly, just talking about the main three songs that were made for the movie, obviously, Learning to Fly is probably the most emotional one I've heard so far. Um, I feel like any time I hear Learning to Fly, I'm not even just thinking of the song, I'm thinking of Sky's backstory as well. Not even just because it plays during her backstory, but because the song itself is actually designed to fit Sky's personality about how, like, I think the one line from it where it's like you've got to learn to fall before you fly. Like it's such like a powerful feeling of a line, and I feel like it does really well. And even just going to the score, like you both said, Pinar Toprak. Forgive me. I honestly still have no clue how to pronounce her name, and I think all three of us have pronounced it in different ways. I honestly do not know how you say her name. Sorry. But when like her score was like probably the best you'd ever hear. Like I think so much of it, I was just thinking to myself, that is such a well done score for this scene. And I was thinking to myself, I can see why Paramount and Cal Brunker and Bob Barlin chose to hire you. Like this was absolutely perfect. And I'd said that obviously when we'd made the Fury videos months ago, when obviously it was announced that she was doing the score, one of the things that came to mind obviously was I looked her up and turns out she was obviously part of the score for making things from Marvel stuff, like Captain Marvel more specifically. And she was obviously like one of the best choices when it came to like who would be good for like making the score for the movie, and I thought it was she just did really well. So the score and the actual songs made for it, well done. I give it a lot of credit.
They were really well made throughout this movie, and also
Back.
Hey.
Well, look, welcome back, Andrew. Obviously, like you said, that's just something that'll happen. Like, it's not your fault. It's honestly fine.
Yeah.
yeah. What topic are you guys on?
But we just
Oh,
stopped.
yeah.
We didn't even we didn't continue. The reason why is because we didn't want to like go on topics and then leave you like with not saying something for them.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, no
course.
problem. So
I think now we can go off to the best moment in the movie.
Okay.
So, Meat, you go for that one.
well, as for me, I think the best moment in the movie for me was Sky's backstory. Just how it was done and everything. Like I said earlier, Sky telling the backstory, which was pretty good, which was a much needed plus. Much needed plus over the first. Her telling it to Chase and just honestly just how it was animated. Like I bet their entire budget, well, most of their budget went into animating that one scene and just seeing seeing the snow being animated was something new and refreshing, despite the animation being mostly the same as the first. But I think that's the backstories are always going to be emotional and one of the key points of the film. I just hate for just to bring this up. I just hate that the lyric video that got released a week before the film ended up spoiling it for everyone that watched it. I I
Mm.
mean, the books is one thing, but the fact that they released it that early before the movie was even out and in full animation, I think that just that wasn't right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But other than that, I still think I personally think Sky's backstory was the best moment of the movie for me.
Yeah.
That's sorry.
I was like, hold on, did I cut off again? But then I realized I was muted.
Oh, thank God. Oof. Right.
All right. So, Nebula, your thoughts for your best moment?
Right. This was one of the things I held back from mentioning from the action segment from earlier. My best moment has to be when Sky takes all the crystals and she starts destroying the meteors with her jet and then she starts punching them. That whole final segment was just the best for me. For multiple reasons. One, the fact that Ryder even says she's she's the one who needs to do it. Like she's the only one who can do it. She's the only one who's like with the power to be able to do so, and all the pups give her their crystals. Just the fact that it's like the sort of, and I'll admit, one thing I will say that kind of undercut the moment was, unfortunately, the trailer that obviously showed, the first trailer that even showed the fact that she would get all the crystals at the end when she punches the meteor, and it kind of spoiled it. But to me, the simple fact that it was just really well done. The fact that she flies up towards them in her jet, she starts blasting some of them, and then when her jet gets hit, she leaves and just starts manually flying around herself. That was really good. And then it's just that, you know what it was? I would like the soundtrack that was playing in the background of that, and when she punches the meteors, the actual like breaking sound effect when that happened was just so well done. And I actually was starting to get a bit chills watching it, just because of the fact that I genuinely had a thought when I was watching. Am I still watching Paw Patrol? Like, this is really higher stakes and scale, well higher than what I thought would ever be done for, like I said, a simple kids show turned into a movie. Like, this was really well done, and I think I mentioned this to both of you. Like back when I'd first watched it, I mentioned that when that whole scene was happening, I could only think about Undefeatable from Sonic Frontiers, and I thought that was just like the best fit for it. And it really just ranks up there as the best moment for me, just simply and purely because it's probably the most high stakes that they've ever done, and it was brilliant, like absolutely brilliant.
Someone might need to make a music video on that with that track.
Yeah, though that's that. Actually, maybe I'll manage that at some point, as long as the copyright striker, as long as any copyright strikers don't attack me. Yeah, I get, but no, oh no, we let all the books and the lyric videos and the camera recordings go by perfectly fine, but something that's just a fan made project that doesn't even spoil anything. Oh no, we take that down straight away.
I imagine that with the Squidward meme in his bed. You know, he closes his eyes, then he opened like he opened. You've seen the meme, right? The Squidward one. He's in his bed and he has his eyes closed for like the first two
Oh yeah, and then
images,
and you open. Yeah, I know what
yeah,
one you're
yeah,
talking
that
about.
one, that
Yeah,
one, yeah,
that one.
that's what got me thinking now.
Yeah, that's yeah. Um, yeah, but that was my favorite moment. But I guess now, Andrew, how about you tell us what your favorite and best moment was?
Okay. My coincidentally enough, actually not really coincidentally, I'd say that my favorite moment from this movie was, I think, as Meat said, the part where Sky was telling her backstory, and the fact that it was Chase that was the one she was telling it to. I found that to be really sweet and nice. And yeah, that is my favorite moment from the movie.
Hmm.
Now, what do we think was the worst moment in this movie?
Ooh.
Nebula, let's start with you.
Right. This is okay. I had to take a think about this for a little while, simply because I was I'll admit there was a few things I was going through my mind when thinking of one of the worst scenes. I do think one of the worst, and this might be controversial. I'm not 100% sure. I think my like at least one of the worst scenes is I think the plane segment. I'm sorry. The plane segment where Vance and Humdinger, where Humdinger somehow has his own jet, don't know how, and he's flying in it, and I think I don't like this scene for a couple of reasons, and I think one of the main reasons why I don't like it is because it felt just stupid. So the whole concept of them needing the jet was just so that they could fake being rescued, and this just felt like a unnecessary scene in my opinion, because Humdinger did not need to be there. Like, Vance could have probably easily done this by herself. She's obviously got like stuff that she could probably do, and the fact that it just felt like a whole Humdinger merch advertisement thing with not only the jet but also the all the stuff on the jet and in the parachute, it was a bit awkward. Plus, the way Vance basically almost just froze Sky over in the plane, it was a bit like it was a little bit hard to watch. And it overall just didn't. And overall, the bit where like she basically like breaks one of the engines and they it's the plane's about to crash. It's like I was just all I could think was if that scene supposed to be funny where Humdinger's like really shocked, and I was like it really wasn't as funny. So it was unfortunately that's my worst moment.
It probably wasn't. There were probably ways where they could have maybe done something a lot better to replace that scene. And I agree with you. It maybe was not necessary. Meat, your thought on the worst moment in the movie.
Okay. For me, it's pretty simple. The worst part of the movie for me was when it ended.
That's technically true. That's technically true.
But no, not really. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I think the worst moment for me was that montage sequence with Down Like That. Not saying Down Like That wasn't good for the track, but just it didn't really have much significance to the story. It was just there to I think it was just there to take up too much time from the story and stuff. But I just didn't think it was really that necessary, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's a hot take. I agree with you on that one. Because I think that particular scene actually took about 4 minutes of the movie's runtime. And when you actually consider what can actually be put in 4 minutes, it's a lot. And yeah, it was probably a bit too much drawn out. And in my opinion, Down Like That, just like Bark to the Beat, they both should have been just for the end credits, and it would have been, in my opinion, completely fine.
I mean, just to bring this up, going back to the first movie, I think they had a montage with Good Mood in it. At least, I think that one was a lot. That one was a lot. Okay, a lot better than the montage we got in the second, because it's not doing rescues. You just see the pups vibing a good move, having a good time, and such, and it's not like taking up a whole entire segment just getting from Adventure Bay to Adventure City. So it's much more used there.
Yeah, that is true, because it gave off the vibe of the early day episodes where we were just seeing the pups hanging out and vibing pretty much. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed that montage a lot more. All right. Now we can go on. No, oh, wait, hold on. I haven't given my worst moment.
All right.
So for me, the worst moment of this movie for me is probably when Sky made the decision to take all the crystals and go by herself to try to get that one remaining crystal away from Vance.
Yeah, that's
Because, no offense, but that was a serious brain issue from Sky there.
Oh yeah, it was a bit of the way I kind of thought of it is that she was trying to prove herself, yes, but the wrong way to go about it, because it was not the best. Not the best, and this is what kind of got me, to be fair, because the pups, despite being kind of young, they're not stupid. They're good. They're quite smart, right? So the fact this guy thought that this was the best way to do things kind of made me a bit concerned.
Yeah,
Not only
exactly.
not only that,
Yeah,
wait,
continue me.
not only that, you basically put the entire city and maybe even the world at risk with that, and you're very lucky that
Hmm.
Vance ended up getting a crystal to Humdinger, because I think if she still would have had them all, and the pups didn't have any, they wouldn't have stood a chance against her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, agreed. The only thing here is that maybe they could have tried maybe something with the junior patrollers for distracting, but I question how long that tactic is going to work before Vance eventually found out.
Yeah, because she's not stupid either. She's slightly. She even admits she is mad, but she's not stupid. Like she would probably figure it out relatively quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, if she figured out like mid sleep, had a feeling that Sky was gonna take the crystal from her, I don't think she's getting fooled that easily.
Yeah.
So,
Except for the part where she posted her stunt on the
Oh,
internet. That wasn't
oh
a good
yeah.
idea.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
that.
That was pretty
And
much her only side of that was pretty much her only biggest blunder, really, I
oh
can
yeah.
think
yeah,
of.
Yeah. No, I
and
agree.
she also self-liked her own video.
I mean, we don't know that, but it's rightful to assume.
Oh, if you can, if that's the case where you could, she probably did. Vance is the kind of person that would self like her own. It looked like some. It looked like a live stream when she was doing it, but like just self like her own content of any kind. I hate to say it. She seems like the kind of person that would. Mm.
Yeah, I agree on that part. And I think we can also now go on to the next segment, which we get to talk about other things in the movie that we didn't mention previously that we'd maybe like to bring out and talk about. Meat, you go first.
Oh, let's see. We did like the fact they brought back the same end credits sequence, mostly from the first movie, and made some improvements to it. And the I gotta mention the opening sequence with the logo before the actual film starts. That was pretty good as well. Um, I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't have another Spin Master logo wipeout with Marshall like they did in the first, but doesn't need to be in everything, so I'll skip past that. Um, I gotta mention McKenna Grace as Sky. I think definitely she did um pretty good job as her, and it was a very interesting take on a much older Stallion Sky than what we're used to in the series, and she did well. As for I gotta mention the new characters here. I liked half of the new characters, like Victoria Vance and the Junior Patrollers, obviously, but everyone else, uh, I have to say for everyone else that um, Sam Strainer was pretty much the newscaster was the only one out of the rest of the side characters that I really liked. But I don't think, in terms of, except for the exception of Victoria Vance and the Junior Patrollers, I think the first movie side characters, the celebrity characters, are better than the ones we got in the second movie, personally.
Mm.
The ones we got in the second movie kind of felt like filler characters. Like their
Yeah,
only purpose there was to make the story continue going on.
yeah, I just hate
And
that. I just hate that
You can,
good voice talents like Kristen Bell and James Marsden have to be limited to just one rescue or something like that, not more like the other characters got it. Just isn't fair, really.
Yeah.
they definitely deserved better. So, Nebula, your thoughts?
Okay, well, in terms of the anything miscellaneous, I give, like me had said with the voice acting, my thoughts on the voice acting was that it was overall done really well. I will admit, and I understand that they probably, because Sky was the main character, they wanted a maybe more well known voice actress or actress of some kind to, voice her. But I couldn't help but feel a little bit bad for Lily Bartlam, only simply because, like, obviously she did such a good job as Sky in the series previously, and she was in the first movie. I do feel kind of bad that they kind of just ended up sidelining her for this movie, mostly just because I think, regardless of who's actually voicing the characters, I don't think. I'm not saying McKenna Grace did a bad job. I did think she did a good job, but like I said, I do feel like Lily Bartlam kind of just got sidelined, unfortunately, which is a bit annoying. And I have to say this as well, okay? Um, I'll admit, even though it was in the trailer, I was not expecting the Chris Rock scene like at all. Like I remember when that first shown up in the trailer, I was just not expecting that at all. And I when if you know Chris Rock, you know Chris Rock. You're gonna know him from something at some point. Whether you know him as Marty from Madagascar, or you know him as the guy who made a joke about someone's wife that got him slapped at the Oscars. Um, you're probably going to know Chris Rock from somewhere, and just hearing his voice, it was actually just quite funny. And I remember do you know what it was? I remember a really funny theory someone had when Chris Rock was first announced. Because when they announced Chris Rock, I remember someone actually had the theory that maybe if he's voicing a cat, could there be a villain cat? And I remember someone made the joke, imagine if Chris Rock was Copycat, and it
Like,
was
I can't see that.
mm,
That's a long.
no, but like
That's
this is
way
what I'm
out
talking. It was
there.
just something, But do you know what it was though? It was just something that was just really stupid that someone had mentioned, and it was just something really silly, and I just loved it. It was just really that funny. Um, and the only other miscellaneous thing I want to bring up, just as a quick final thing, I want to just clarify for everyone who ends up watching this, and both of you as well. It was something related to the unique connection thing, because whether Jennifer Doge was maybe not aware of how significant whatever the unique connection is would play in the Mighty movie, or she really actually just overestimated it. But I feel like it wasn't really explored as much in the Mighty movie, because I remember I talked to both of you about this with Animal Paw Pony as well, who's Parachute Buddy, and I remember mentioning that the only like reasonable thing I could think of is that maybe Chase had played a role in Sky's backstory of some kind, and I felt like that was a reasonable assumption to make if they wanted to like say they had a unique connection. But I feel like what we got in the movie wasn't really that at all, because the only thing I could maybe say is, oh, I don't know, it's just that maybe Sky trusts Chase the most, that she's the only one that he learned her story from her. A small thing, and I wasn't like expecting it to be anything massive, I know, but I just feel like I feel like Jennifer Doge maybe could have phrased it a little bit differently, and maybe not set it up to be this more important thing than what it was. Still was done okay, but I feel like she overestimated it. That's all.
Yeah, I, I think it could have been. I think the whole backstory and the end of the backstory, I think, could have been done a little bit better. Maybe would have contributed to the connection. Like at the very end when Sky says Ryder wouldn't have another pup not as small as her, something like that, and she said, "I had no idea." I feel like that was a bit of a missed opportunity. Like you could easily connect to Chase's struggles from the first movie, that like how they both had sort of similar struggles, and have it like connect back, have not only as a reference to the first movie, but have a connection between the two.
Mm.
Yeah. And regarding the unique connection, as you guys were talking about, me personally, after I heard from the book, the storybook, that there was not much going on, I set my expectations very low coming into that movie, because I was beginning to feel like, yeah, the Spin Master and Jennifer Dodge has probably once again lied to us about something. But when I ended up watching the movie, I did get decently surprised by the amount of moments that were in there. Yes, there were some areas that maybe, like you said, were missed opportunities. But I will say this. We're going to get onto a topic of the third movie later, but based on the fact that Cal said that he he didn't outright say it, but he did say that something like there will be more locations that they would explore, which basically implies to me that the next one probably won't be located in Adventure City. And when they are also going to another place and Liberty might not be there, they need something, I think, as a side plot besides the main one to continue the story going. So maybe there is a possibility in future movies that this might slowly get developed better.
Mm. I could possibly see that. It kind of just depends, though.
Yeah, depends what they want to do. But yeah, I was quite satisfied, I'd say, with the stuff that we got regarding that. So now we're on to the ninth topic, which is, how does this compare to the first movie? Nebula, I'm gonna start with you.
Right, okay. I have to look at like all the different factors between the movies, and I look at like the important points. And
Yeah.
when I think about it, I would say the animation, the story, the pup backstory in question, and then the probably even add in the comedy, because that's obviously something that they're going for as a common theme. Starting with the action, I think the second movie would have a leg up over the first. Like I've said before previously, it's definitely scaled up much higher, and it's definitely more built up. It's definitely to a much higher level than I ever thought Paw Patrol would go, which is obviously a clear sign that, in my opinion, that the Mighty movie does take the edge for it does have the edge for action. Comes to story itself, it's a bit. I do actually think the story of the first movie, and I'm not talking backstory related stuff, I do feel like the story of the first movie, considering how it's like the first time they did that, like the first movie was obviously the first time that this happened, and first time we get to see a story of this kind of nature. I do think the first movie does do better with the storytelling than the first, because like I said, the first time we're seeing this at this scale, first time we're seeing this new place, new characters. And what I will say, I do actually think I liked Sky's backstory more in the Mighty movie, though. I think hers was a lot more emotionally driven, and I'm relieved that they had a reason to kind of bring it up. And not no, sorry, that's the wrong way to phrase that. I'm relieved that the way they talked about it in the Mighty movie, the way that they like lead and segue into it is different from, oh, it's a place that's making it's actually something, and it's a physical piece of my past that's actually making me remember this. And obviously, like I've been called small way too much just recently, like that. I do feel like it segues in quite well, and I feel like how it segues into Sky backstory. And like I said earlier as well, the fact that not only is Sky the one telling her story, the way that she's also the way that it's also not split up between the movie, like it's not, oh, it's half of the story backstory, then the other half of the backstory. It's all just in one scene. I do think I liked that a lot more. And like I said earlier with the comedy, I do think that the comedy was better in the Mighty movie. Like I'd said, I'd laughed a lot more in the Mighty movie about the jokes, and especially the toilet and the jail cell joke that I was not expecting them to do. So when I look back and I think of that, I look and I see that 3 points to the Mighty movie, only 1 point for the first movie. The Mighty movie definitely exceeded what I thought it would be, and I feel like it overall, especially because it's 3-1. I think the Mighty movie takes the win for me. So I do boldly say that I think the Mighty movie is better than the first, but ever so slightly, though.
Agree with that take because regarding, as you said, story wise, I think that's the one thing the first movie beats out the second movie with the way they handled the story. That is like the only W I could think the first movie has over the second one. In terms of everything else regarding pacing, the action, the animation, the soundtrack, the comedy, I think all those things, I think the Mighty movie did quite a better job at that. So I do also agree that the second movie edges out the first one. Meet, your thoughts?
Dear, I'm the odd one out here, so
Oh yeah,
I think the first movie was a bit better, slightly better than the Mighty movie. I think the story is what did it for me, having to, the whole facing the fears thing. But I think how much better Chase's story in general was executed. Like the first part of the backstory appears at the first part. I don't like how it handed on the cliffhanger, but it all comes full circle once the second half rolls around, and I lost my train of thought. How Ryder sees Chase as the bravest pup he's ever seen. It all comes back, and it connects with how he's able to take his leap of faith and save Ryder in the end. And don't get me wrong, Sky's backstory it's good. I like it, but there were a couple of issues that I had with it. Like, let's see, what was it? Like some for like her getting strength and having her as her power, and not getting the whirlwind and wings that made her unique in the original Mighty Pups, but also just Ryder pulling almost the same thing he did in the first with as he did with Chase with Sky after Chase had the monorail incident, and it kind of irked me a bit that at least in the first his reasoning for doing so was at least reasonable, since Chase was struggling and everything. He had two failed rescues, and he decides that it really wasn't. He shouldn't be doing any more rescues because of what could happen if it continues. But for Sky, it was only for one rescue. It was only for one rescue, and said that you're done because you don't have powers. I didn't really like that, but I besides the story, I do agree that everything else about it was better and a one-up than what the first did. Just the story just really didn't add up for me as much as the first did.
Yeah, no, I completely agree regarding the story part. And I do think this might also be the consequence of having a very quick release date for the second movie after the first one.
Yeah.
I feel like this might have contributed to why this second movie story was weaker.
It's probably because they wanted to release it in time for the 10th anniversary or something like that. I don't know, but
Yeah.
at least as we find out with the third movie, it's for the third movie, at least it's a 3-year development time, so at least that'll give them a break if they need it or have more time to work on the movie, which I'm grateful that they're giving them more time to do it. Maybe it'll be a maybe it'll be a better story overall, but we'll see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I'm quite intrigued about what the third movie could possibly be about because we didn't see at the end of the second movie the Pops lose their powers. So I
That's
assume
one.
that they still have them, at least starting going into the third movie. But maybe somewhere near the beginning something happens to them. I don't know. But we know that at starting from the end of the second movie they still have their powers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Obviously,
I just
it's
go
going to be a
go
bit weird. Sorry. It's just going to
good.
be a bit weird going into the third from the end of the Mighty movie, but I'll save what I want to say for that for later until we finish the other points first.
I personally I don't think it's that really that deep, but I feel like they only kept they didn't lose their powers was because if you guys watched the promo of the new Mighty Pups episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That is more of a reason, but I mean,
Yeah. So they keep their powers. They bring the vehicles over. They bring the suits over. The junior patrollers are back. Like I don't want to think right now that it's going to be a Mighty Movie 2. It's possible since they still have them, but I lost my train of thought again. I just don't think it's gonna be anything deep like a second Mighty Movie. It's possible, but I just think it was done
no.
for the series more than anything.
Yeah, that's why I came up with the theory that maybe perhaps like near the beginning of the third movie, just like how something happened to the main lookout tower, perhaps something happens to those meteor crystals as well. Some
Yeah,
Mm,
specific
I mean,
circumstance.
mhm, but I think if that's the reason how they're gonna get rid of whatever element was in the past movie, I think it just will become a little bit repetitive over time. That's my only fear.
Yeah, probably. So that now brings us on to our final topic of this discussion, which is what could the third Paw Patrol movie be about and who will it focus on? Nebula, I'm gonna start with you for this one.
Oh, right. I've been waiting for this, and I think what I'm going to start with is what pup is going to be the focus. And I have made numerous videos discussing this now because I am hoping that if, and I'm pretty sure they are, like the movie team are watching our videos, right? That they maybe are somewhat inspired by some ideas and they can use some, maybe even just like a hint of what we say in something, like even a small thing. And and I've been pitching for Marshall for the third movie for so long. And when I look at it, I always think that, and I've said this before so many times, I'd say that Marshall is probably the most ideal pick for one, the fact that he's probably the most popular. If I had to think of the poster boy for Paw Patrol, I don't even think Chase. I actually think it's either him, like Chase, or Marshall, simply because Marshall's like the clumsy one, plus he's the Dalmatian, and the simple fact that he's used so much, plus the fact that I think it comes down to the point that even if you count, he's just so many people's favorites as well. You're going to run into so many people in the fandom that are more than likely going to tell you that Marshall's their favorite. Not everyone, mind you, but the majority is more than likely going to say that Marshall is their favorite pup. And I can see that for good reason. The second reason is the fact that if you think about how it could play in a story sense, I think that Marshall's thoughts of his clumsiness and just his clumsiness makes for what you could build a really good backstory around. Really, just because of the fact that it's a way you can build someone not even conquering a fear. It's more like conquering, like it's basically becoming more confident in yourself, being more believing in yourself. Not even, and I say to that to be different for Chaser Skies because it's like the fact that you move past the thought of messing up. You don't worry about messing up. You just do what you know how to do and you do it right. And the third reason why I say Marshall is because you'll probably know this, right? Whether it's merch or grouping, Marshall seems to be in a trio with, like, if you had to think of how you'd segment the Paw Patrol into like separate either twos or threes, right? I do honestly think that if you had to segment them, it would be Rocky, Rubble, and Zuma, and Chase, Marshall, and Sky as their own trio, okay? And that's kind of proven by not only the times you'll see them being on the most posters, like, in fact, the majority of posters I can see for new stuff almost always has Marshall, Chase, and Sky right at the front. They're used like the most when it comes to those main three. But not only that, the TV movies, right? They chose to order them where it was Chase had Mighty Pups, Marshall had Ready Race Rescue, and then Sky had Jet to the Rescue. But not only that, it seems to be that they're going with that sort of similar theme because we've had the original movie was Chase, the Mighty movie for the second was Sky. All this stuff right now, all I can think of is that Marshall was just really the most likely candidate, and I really struggle to see anyone else. And again, it hurts being a Zuma fan, wishing that he should maybe be the one that gets the third movie, but I just don't really think there's much to expand on. And I say Zuma doesn't really have much to expand on because we've not really seen him get developed a whole lot, which is unfortunate. So we don't really have a good idea of what could work well for a backstory for him. Rocky, we only know to be afraid of water, and I hate to say this, Rocky fanboys, but there's not really much you can do that's not going to either be, oh, I have to work as a lifeguard, I've got to swim, I've got to go in the water, or I get stuck on an island, I can't just swim back, or something like that. And I also do not advocate for Rubble, and I don't hate him, but he's already got a spin-off. He doesn't need a movie as well, at least not yet. And
One thing before you continue talking, sorry to interrupt you. I think the only two pops who have a serious case of being the focus for the next movie are Marshall and Zuma.
mm, okay, maybe I can see that. I don't know.
I see potential for Zuma mainly because the fact that we don't actually know what his struggles are or anything that he might be afraid of. And there's a lot of different ways and opportunities the writers could maybe try to experiment with him.
Hmm. Right. I've only got one more thing I can really theorize for what the third movie could do. Um, and it's a bold call, but I think it can be done. I think if we're talking about increasing the stakes every time they do these movies, you know, new city, big city like rescues, and the whole set of the scale was really upped in terms of the gear and equipment and that, and then it's upped all the way to superpowers and stuff that could destroy the city from like meteors and that. I think if you want something bigger than that, there's only one thing in my mind that can really up the scale, and that's something involving space. And this is what I think is interesting because it would mean that we could have a bit of a break from Adventure City. We could probably start in it, fair enough, but we can have them go to like. Am I saying that they're going to go to the edge of the solar system? No, but I feel like at the very least they could maybe take a chance and try not to have a like they could try something that's like based in space. And this is a this is actually something I even pitched the idea of what they could call this because they based obviously the Mighty movie around the original Mighty Pups. That makes sense. Um, I think if they were to make a third movie about space, they could call it something like, and I really hope this name sticks because I think it really could work. Is Paw Patrol the Astro movie? Like the title alone would be enough incentive for me, and I think, like I said, if you want something that's upping in the scale, then space is just the best way to go about it. But that's all I really can say for a third.
Yeah. To be fair, I think you actually talked about most of the things that needed to be said, but Meat, if you have anything else to add, you can add.
That's pretty much, I guess it's pretty much everything Nebula said, but I'll say anyway. I do think Marshall is my top pick to be the main character of the third movie. Like Nebula said, it's the trend, Chase with Mighty Pups, Marshall with Ray Ray's Rescue, Sky Jet to the Rescue, and now Chase and Sky have had their movies already, so it makes sense to do him next. But I pick him not because of popularity like everyone else is saying, but I think logically he's one that we know more about, with his clumsiness and everything. We've seen it happen before in the series many times, and unlike say like Chase's leadership or Sky's fear of, I mean not fear, struggles with being small and everything. It's just something that's been a little bit it's been consistent with him throughout, and I think it would work well with the right writing. I think it could work into a good story with the time they have between now and the third movie. Uh, Personally, I think it would be a dream if Rocky and Zuma are the main voice crack, the main characters for this next movie, but I see them more as long shots from a certain point of view because Marshall is a marketing pup. So who do you think they're going to prioritize more than out of all the pups? And unfortunately, even Rubble too, who honestly I don't no hate to anyone who's a Rubble fan, but I just personally cannot see him being the main character. I don't want him to be the main character yet because, for one, he has his spin-off series. He's already the main character in that, so there's really no need for him to have a theatrical film just yet when there are other options out there that deserve to have their stories explored more because Rubble already and the most important thing, the theatrical films are mostly driven by the pups' backstories, and Rubble has already gotten one in Pups Get a Rubble from season one. So I just think it makes more sense to do stories on the other pups than Rubble. But not only that, and also I forgot to mention this. He's also the Rubble's also the comedic effect and the comedy relief of the team in the movie, and he gets a good amount of screen time because of it. So combined, voice crack again. Combined with that, and when he gets a story, he'll be getting a lot of screen time. And if you're gonna do comedy, if he's gonna be the main character, and you need someone to do comedy relief, just give it back to Marshall. I mean, he's the comedic relief in the show, and I think it would appease Marshall fans more. But it'd just be really weird having a serious story on Rubble, and then having him be in the comedic effect at the same time. but but Marshall's my go-to, my top pick. Rocky and Zuma, again, long shots. I'm not expecting them to be the main character, but I would be really surprised if they are. And Rubble has a chance, but I don't think anybody wants that. He's a marketing pup like Marshall, and in my case or a certain point of view, it's going to be either one of them two. And I'm gonna call it Rubble's gonna be the main character.
Oh,
Just
the absolute
Even as me, who someone who actually likes Rubble, I agree. He has too much spotlight going on for him right now. And if he genuinely is the main character for the next movie, I personally think half of the older fandom might just give up at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
look at how Rubble and Crew is doing. Rarely anyone posts anything from that show. So that's my biggest fear. The same effect will happen here if he's chosen as the main character.
I hate to say it, and just one point I want to say on that. I don't think there's really anything interesting that could really be added that would actually make Rubble have an interesting backstory. Like, and I'm just going to say this as well. Whether the stuff is really actually canon or not, I know what's been said by directors, I know what's in the show, but listen, I'm just not even going to think about it. Whether that kind of thing is canon or not, okay? Rubble has technically already been given a backstory in this series, okay? To him to get one twice would just feel like an insult when there are so many other choices that would actually be so much better. And again, he might be one of the poster boys, but I don't think he's as much of a poster boy as Marshall is, and that's why again I think it's not even just if people like big fans of Marshall. He's just the most deserving. Besides the fact that it's clear that when they do the backstories, it's a pretty clear sign that when they do the pups as a really young version of themselves, like very young, that they make them as cute as they can possibly can. You know what I mean? And they make like they're really small. And trust me when I say this, that Marshall being a Dalmatian makes him arguably one of the cutest puppies you'll ever see. And I'm just gonna say this, like I think it would just be perfect for him to be in the third movie just for that other reasons alone.
Yeah. Did you cut out, or did I cut out, or are we good? I think Nebula's muted.
Good grief. As if more technical issues had to come up.
Yeah,
Oh, what a recording session it's been. Holy crap.
Yeah, I think maybe I might have to send the recording file to one of you because there's probably a long period in this recording where there's no talking, and I think that needs to be cut out.
Like in between when you had your internet issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit. There were periods where there was silence, but yeah, we might need to edit that out.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, even with those technical issues that we've had today, we hope that you have enjoyed this DNA podcast. And if you did, be sure to hit the like button down below. And please go ahead and check out Da3picMeat and Nebula's YouTube channels. I'll leave them down in the description of this video when it gets posted. And yeah, this was the Mighty Movie Discussion. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you all for next time. Peace out.
think Andrew, did you cut out?
I think
Can't
you
really
cut out.
decide.
Andrew, I think you cut out a bit there. Sorry, we missed what you said. Uh-oh. Oh no, VC call can never go completely correct. That I understand.
It never can. Something has to happen.
Yes, it does, but we've been doing so well, so hold on.
Don't jinx it. Maybe there's no trouble on his end.
I think so. Well, while we have the time, I may as well look for the rest of the points to see what we've got. One thing I'm relieved with is the fact that this isn't live. Like, this is just going to be a recording. If this was live, this would be a lot more awkward.
Yes, it definitely would be. It is a bit concerning because we don't know if he's ever gonna get back on or something, because we plan to do this like we said, like an hour, 15, 30 minutes, and we only have so much time with free time that's available for us.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when all three of us have completely different time zones, and the fact that we get a segment of time that can actually work for all of us is very rare. So it's. Saturday obviously can try, like, is usually the best day for all three of us to try and do it, but it's it's the only day we can, like the only day that's even reasonable. So it is.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he comes back. I really hope he comes back. I assume he is aware though that he's cut out. Like he's not gonna. I think he's probably like trying to fix it right now, which I really hope. But all I can do is just hope and pray that he'll come back, which I think he should. But hopefully it's not too late for him. The bot just got a notification saying that it hasn't heard anything for a while, so reminder, stop recording.
Yeah, so too. And if it does, I'll just hope it saves.
Yeah, it should. I'm pretty sure if it stops, it'll create like a thing that he can save it to his files on his computer or some kind, and then he'll use that to edit it. So I think I might just stop the recording at the moment, because when he gets back, it's probably still going to have like a bunch of extra stuff. So I'd rather just stop the recording now for him, so he's not got any extra on the file that he's going to save for this, and he can easily just start it again. And thankfully, I can do that. You're worried.
Yeah. I'm just worried it won't save. I'm just worried it won't save. That's my only concern about it.
That's true.
He's the one. I mean, he's the one that started it and everything.
That's true. No, I'm worried about that. Oh, I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm not gonna mess with it.